All right, everybody, welcome to episode 8 of the War Room Podcast. I am your miserable host, Andy, and the other guy that looks a little bit happier than I do today is Rob. What's going on, Rob?
What's up, man? How you doing? You holding up all right?
I'm surviving. I'm pissed, but I'm okay. How about you? Let's start with a little sunshine, and then we'll just go to doom and gloom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm totally surprised. I did not expect that at all. Obviously, nobody did. Very happy. It's the first time I've seen a halftime adjustment in 4 years. I think now there's, granted we took a little bit of a blueprint from the Patriots and the Chargers, but I think we all kind of know how to go about, defending Patrick Mahomes and that offense. That cover six was really cool. Literally sent 3 or 4 guys the whole time. That's it. And put everybody else in coverage. And man, we got some young corners that are playing really, really well right now. So awesome weekend. I know you're not upset though, because every single week since you were born, no matter who they're playing, whether it be Don Bosco or the New England Patriots, you're going to say we're going to lose, which is why I think that you were meant to be a Packers fan in another life, if that's how it is. So you told me before the game you were going to lose. You did. You say it every week. So I guess we can just move on to what else you want to talk about.
No, I mean, the reference to a Packers fan is tough for me to take because the Packers have won a Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills have not. The Packers get talked about in the national media. The Buffalo Bills don't. And as soon as the Buffalo Bills started to get like that little glimpse of like people jumping on the bandwagon and everybody starting to talk about Josh Allen and talk about the team and talk about Sean McDermott, we go out there and we play the Tennessee Titans, which had the greatest made-for-TV movie game of all time because they fought through adversity of COVID and they didn't practice. And these professional athletes, they've never played football before in their life, and it was built up for the storyline for us to just go out there and get absolutely spanked. And it wasn't – I don't think – Tennessee's a really good football team. Buffalo just played terrible. We had way too many injuries. And it doesn't help that your MVP caliber quarterback to start the year, his first pass goes to our 6th-string wide receiver, hits him in the hands, and becomes an interception. So that just set the tone for the game right away where it's just like, great, here we go. But it's some glaring needs on our side, which I'm excited about when it comes time for draft season. But we're still in it. We're still moving forward. But, yeah, I mean, we were playing – we called up our starting cornerback from our practice squad, and he was an undrafted guy to the University of Buffalo. So, and he was starting outside opposite of Josh Norman, who has become a household meme recently with how hard he got stiff-armed.
Has he landed yet?
The part that pisses me off more so is plays like that happen to Josh Norman. Normally he turns around and gets pissed off and like plays great the rest of the game. Nah, instead he turned around and just decided to get 15-yard pass interference penalties against him for the rest of the game. So when he does land, I hope somebody just pushes him again and gets him back up to Buffalo because we still need him because now we have the task of playing the Chiefs with no cornerbacks. So that's a plus.
It was a lot closer than the score indicated.
Yeah, and there were a lot of good things that we did on offense still. I think everybody looks at the stats and counts out Josh Allen. There were some throws that Josh made that were absolutely ridiculous that I only think 1 or 2 other quarterbacks can make with the strong arm that he has. So
he might have the strongest arm in the league.
It's a possibility. I mean, one throw he was scrambling or he was rolling out to his left, throwing across his body and hit the guy on the end line for a first down. And then the next one where he threw the 22 or 23-yard touchdown to TJ Yeldon in the back of the end zone was just an absolute frozen rope. But we're a one-dimensional team where our number 2 wide receiver, John Brown, was out, who blows the top off the defense. He looked like Tom Brady with a lead. Like, that's the best way to describe how Josh Allen played. We were in the 4th quarter, and we're dinking and dunking. We're moving down the field, and that's all well and good when you're winning. But when you're down that much, it's not going to work. It was the perfect storm. Tennessee played great. I mean, their offensive game plan was fantastic. They exploited us where we couldn't stop them up the middle of the field because we had no linebackers. And touche. I mean, good for them, and we move on.
was well played by you.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
I told you I was going to give a rant. I'm not the Bills fan that everybody on the Bills Mafia members that are saying, well, we need to blow it up and people should be fired and let's go out there and sign Bell. And it's, you know what our problem is? We're not healthy. We just need to get healthy. We need to play better. Our defense, we need to, and I know you texted me this during the game, is we need to mix up our defense. One of our starting outside or defensive ends is Trent Murphy, who is getting paid way too much money to do nothing. Why not mix it up? Mix it up and put AJ Epinesa outside. Try him out. He only had 4 snaps all of last game, which is tough.
I don't get what happened there. Like, I watched a lot of him at Iowa, and he was like, there were actually people that were like, right now, he's a 3-tech, a 5-tech, depending on your defense. If you have a 4-man front, you probably want to move him to the inside. And now he's 260 pounds. What the hell happened?
I don't know. I think I have a feeling like people like yourself that made fun of his 3-cone drill just finishing up 2 seconds ago when we first started the podcast really got to him. So he felt like he was a chunky monkey and just wanted to slim down. But it's just bad. It's just bad. And the biggest problem that no Bills fan will ever talk about, because every Bills fan, and I throw up the quotes, is Starr opted out at the beginning of the year. Starr isn't playing because of COVID. Everybody hates Starr because he's not a flashy player. Starr takes up 2 offensive linemen in the middle of the field and is a great run stopper. Ed Oliver isn't doing anything for us right now, but that's because everybody's doubling Ed Oliver, and our other defensive tackles weren't on the team last year, and the other one comes off an ACL injury. So it's a whole big slew of things, but at the end of the day, we just got to play better. But trust the process and move on. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Enough about our hometown teams, but what popped off to you last week? Anything popped off to you last week before we start talking about the upcoming deadline?
Man, I feel horrible for Dak Prescott.
Dude, that was the second grossest injury I've ever seen.
That I felt so bad, man. Like, I don't like the Cowboys, obviously, but that sucks. That really sucks. And you know what? For people complaining about, he signed the franchise tag and he's complaining because, it's not enough money. This is why. This is absolutely why. Because there is I don't think this will happen to him, but there have been times where an injury like this happens and that person does not get paid.
Yep.
Because of the owner holding out like that. And to be honest, it was stupid of them to hold out like that, because then, once Mahomes got paid and then Watson got paid and all these, the domino effect, it's going to happen. Dak is going to cost them a metric crap ton of money. And they, now, do they do it?
No. If I'm the Cowboys, I don't. No chance.
Oh, man. And that sucks. That sucks. Because as a fan, it's so easy to say, oh, you have to pay him. He's done so much for you. But business side of football, man.
You never know. You never know with a quarterback, too, and what's between his ears. Like, this injury could scar him for life, and he could get the yips. Like, he could never throw a ball the same again. He may never scramble the same again. You just never know. And to waste that much – if I'm the GM, if he was on my team, the teams that we drafted, he's done. I'm drafting a quarterback, or I'm going out and signing somebody or trading for somebody. I'm sorry, he's done.
Sucks.
It's unfortunate.
It sucks so bad. But, yeah,
I thought you were going to call me out for my my sleeper pick. No. Where I said the Bengals over the Ravens, and that was a sleeper pick that didn't wake up. So
I will say I thought the Bengals did a good job defensively. I will say that. Honestly. There were a couple they did pretty good, actually, in all seriousness, against Lamar. That's not I know that you hate Lamar, but that's not an easy offense to go against. They did a pretty good job there, considering.
Yeah. The other 2 games that popped out to me is one, talking about injury, Alex Smith coming back into the game for the Washington football team. That was just amazing to see. I didn't expect them to do anything. He doesn't expect himself to do anything. It's just one of those feel-good comebacks. But that's where the whole – it's crazy how that happened on the same day where Dak got his injury, because it's like Alex Smith came back, but he's now the fourth string. Now he's third because Haskins is terrible, but it's just crazy to see. But the final game that popped off to me and that stuck out was, do you know what the Browns record is?
Yeah, 4-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I got. Did not expect it. It didn't register with me that the Browns are actually 4-1 and they're playing some good football. So they beat the Colts, which is a good team. So it was just a unique all-around game for me. But those were the ones that popped off to me.
Here's something I wanted to talk about, though, to go back to Washington. And this is going to involve Haskins potentially switching teams via trade. So while we're
a new topic,
while we're doing that, though, because I know you probably want to talk about it, I personally don't care. I don't even really care to comment on it. Lev Bell signs with the Chiefs. Everyone knows. I don't care. Do you want to talk about it? Perfect. Good. Okay. Haskins. Here's what I don't understand. Now, I know that there was an issue with him last year where, they were basically in set to go into the winning formation, and he's off on the sideline taking selfies with the fans, and they had to bring in a backup quarterback just to take the snap.
Yep.
Obviously, the guy has some growing up to do, but I was listening to the Draft Dudes podcast, which is they're phenomenal, by the way. Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, but they brought up a really good point. Now, if Haskins was on this short of a leash in the first place, why let him start week 1 and then bench him after his best performance? Here I'm looking right at it. He went 32 of 45 against the Ravens, which some people can consider the best defense in the league.
Yep.
32 of 45 for 314 yards and no turnovers. And you bench him after that. And not even benching. And before he got sick, he was the third string. He wasn't even going to dress.
Yep.
If the leash was that short originally, why even do it in the first place?
I started to hear some things, and I can't credit or anything in regards to if this is true or not. When Haskins was drafted, he was a pick of the ownership group or the owners. So the owners wanted Haskins. So he wasn't picked by this coaching staff in general because it's a new coaching staff. So what I've been hearing is that Riverboat Ron played him because that's what the owners wanted, showed that it wasn't working out, and I think the owners are getting impatient. And if they're getting impatient, so Ron goes, okay, well, I have my guy that I know can play football behind him, Kyle Allen, who played with him over in Carolina, who won up some games and actually looked like a decent quarterback, where it's like, look, I'll play my guy if you want to win now. We can continue to develop him, which is a fancy term for them saying we'll just bench him and then try to trade him and turn him into the next Rosen. But it's a terrible thing. I mean, I didn't expect him to be a good quarterback coming out of college anyway. I didn't see him as a great pro prospect. But it just sucks. You have to feel for the guy who, like you said, comes off his best game to date for this year, and he finds himself not even dressing, basically.
I don't get it. But to go back to a conversation that we had weeks ago, they're saying he's going to get traded.
I love it.
Where's he going?
Honestly, I have no idea because all the teams that would need a quarterback, they're probably going to have new head coaches.
I'm wondering, so at some point, and this is what I wanted in the offseason. I wanted Jameis to go to Pittsburgh bad because I'm of the belief that if Pittsburgh wins this year, which is not off the table, they're a very good team, Ben's done. He's gone. I'm of that opinion. He's done. Yep.
Agreed.
I wanted Jameis for that role. I don't know. And the reason for it is I want someone sitting behind him because the rumors are he doesn't really work with young quarterbacks all that well, apparently, Roethlisberger.
Oh, Ben not being a nice guy? Shocker.
Yeah, but I was going to say something horrible, but I'm not.
Following chicks in the bathroom? Go on, proceed.
So I would like him to work a little bit underneath the coaching staff and get some time with the coaching staff and just kind of stand next to the offensive coordinators and the QB coaches to learn the offense. I don't know if Haskins is that guy, but I'm looking for that guy, and I want it to happen this year, not next year.
Well, I know that guy, and you know that guy. The tough part is going to be a oh shit moment in the NFL, and I don't foresee it happening. That guy is Sam Darnold.
He's going to be a Colt.
If Sam Darnold gets to the Pittsburgh Steelers, look out, because he could be an absolute stud over there. If I'm the Steelers, I'll give up whatever. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to be fantastic. I think he'll be a great quarterback. But Pittsburgh, give up your first-round pick, first and a third, first and a fifth, whatever it may be in order to get it. I still think Sam Darnold's a first-round talent, even though some people were saying that he's not worth a first round anymore. But he should absolutely – if he goes to Pittsburgh, that'd be amazing. One, because I'd laugh at the Jets because they're getting rid of their franchise quarterback, and two, because he would be the next franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But
yeah, I
mean, Haskins, just even in looking around the league and thinking about where he could go, Carolina is an idea, but
no.
I mean, Bridgewater's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, that's not happening.
The Colts are an idea, but I mean, he's not a Frank Reich type quarterback.
Those are the ones. If someone was going to trade for Darnold, I would say it's the Colts, but the odds of that happening are.
I mean, the Vikings are an idea, but the Vikings have so much money wrapped up in Cousins, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally no spot for him. I mean, you could say, like, well, then why isn't anybody saying anything about the Jacksonville Jaguars? Why aren't you saying anything about the Bears?
The Bears have so much money left.
That's the thing. It's like these teams have so much money lined up in these quarterbacks, and the other teams that are terrible that are going to need a quarterback, they're going to get a head coach. Like, they're going to get a new head coach. Like, you want to put him – go ahead, put him in Atlanta because they have Matt Ryan, and then maybe – but it's like, well, then maybe that coach wants to draft the guy that sits behind Matt Ryan. Like, it doesn't make sense. So he's screwed. He's absolutely screwed.
This is where, it gets interesting going into next year because, all these quarterbacks coming out too, and all of them that are going to be free agents this year and could be cut in the cap casualties. Where are these people going to go? Like, okay, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, fine. Trey Lance, fine. Zach Wilson, maybe. Where are all of these going to go? Like, trading for Matt Ryan, people are talking about. Where
Stafford could be on the move.
Yeah, but where do they go? That's what I mean. Like, I don't know.
And that's the problem too. Is if he goes to a franchise, and I'll use the Bills for reference, where we have Josh Allen, but if Josh Allen takes two steps back, or if he has another bad game and another bad game, if we had a backup like Matt Ryan or like Bradford Stafford or anybody like that, every Bills fan would be screaming to put them into the game, which is absolutely wrong for what you need to do in order to build a proper football team.
Yeah.
See, so that's the biggest problem too, is you're going to run into situations where you're going to have an established, solid backup who's a really good starting quarterback backing up somebody, and the fan base is going to go nuts, which puts pressure on the ownership group and the coaches, and then those coaches are set up for failure.
One team we're not talking about too, honestly, and the reason I don't is because I was a homer when he was coming out of Mizzou. Denver.
Lock.
He wasn't a hot, like he was a round three.
He's been playing hot though.
He hasn't been playing.
When he's healthy, he was playing hot.
I thought I don't know. Like there's not a lot of money invested in him.
Yeah.
That could be. He's not playing well enough to where. If the Falcons call you and say, hey, give us a third for Matt Ryan, they're going to say no. You know what I mean?
But are they in a situation where they could lose their coach?
Fangio, I doubt it right now.
See, like I'm on the fence of coaching, hiring and firing of certain teams, and he's one of the teams that's on the fence with me.
So here's the reason why I think he has a little bit of a longer leash, if you will. They are the most injured team in the league.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? And it's not even close. When you lose Von Miller and you lose Jarrell Casey, and you lose your starting quarterback, and you lose your ace wide receiver, and you lose, like all these guys are hurt. Like that's not on him. And I understand, again, every team, and you and I both know this, every team suffers with injuries. I think he has a longer leash for that purpose. And honestly, their defense is still pretty good. Yeah. They're still playing pretty well. I don't know. I just think that's a team that we don't talk about enough when it comes to potentially moving on from their quarterback. But at the same time, I loved Locke coming out of Mizzou, so I'm a little bit of a homer there.
You know what's an interesting one that I didn't even think about because I just assumed they were good? 49ers.
Yeah, man.
They got a lot of money lined up with Jimmy G, but he got benched.
Yeah.
He did not look good.
No. I
And don't get me wrong, Miami's a very underrated team. I hate when people say Miami's not a good team. Miami spent a lot of money to make their defense really good. And Fitzpatrick will put up numbers because just what he does. But the 49ers did not look good.
No, they really don't. They don't.
That could be a team with a unique landing spot. But since we're on that issue that topic in general, outside of quarterbacks, everybody knows that the deadline's looming. It's coming around the corner for the trade deadline. So
29th. Yeah.
There's going to be buyers and sellers on each team, each organization, without looking too deep into the numbers, which I know that's something that we would absolutely love to do, especially when it comes around to when trades actually do happen. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What are some teams that you think are buyers and sellers, and who do you think's going where and why?
Well, first off, let's just do a really quick educational process here. When you guys are looking at Spotrac or Over the Cap or anything like that, and you look at salaries, make sure you realize that players are paid weekly per game. So when you see $16 million, that does not mean he's owed $16 million. Odds are, unless there was a bye week or something, they've already been paid 5 of that $16 million. So he would still have $11 million due. So just keep in mind, because we're all looking at it. We all want our teams to improve. Every fan wants to be a buyer. They don't want to be a seller ever, unless you're dead and your team's gone, Jets, essentially.
Eagles.
The one that's interesting to me right now, putting into consideration, you're going to have a new coaching staff. Putting into consideration, you are looking to save money to make it a little bit more appealing. J.J. Watt. Yep. So he's owed right now, I believe it's 10-5. I think it's about 10-5 he's owed for the rest of this year. Next year, it's $17 million. But there's no guaranteed money left. All the guaranteed money is gone in that contract. That's an interesting one to me because you got to remember, Houston doesn't have a 1. They don't have a 2. They have an ace top 5 starting quarterback, not taking anything away there. That's your sales piece. That's how you sell that coaching job, like we talked about last week.
Yep.
Watt is also someone that you would use to sell that job to. But at the same time, injuries have caught up with him. But again, though, to counter that, he's the face of Houston. Like, they love him. As they should. The dude is incredible. That's an interesting one to me. I don't even know what his value would be at this point, but that is a really interesting one to me because none of the money's guaranteed. They don't have any draft picks. They're going to have a new coaching staff in. They got Green Bay next week, and then they have I forget who it is. Their next 2 games are there's a really good chance they lose both those games.
Because what was his base salary this year?
15 or 16.
Yeah, so it's a manageable cap number.
There's a 90% chance they start out 1-6.
I know we talked about it in the past. That was one person that I mentioned that could definitely be gone from their franchise. But another one that just popped up into my head recently because of all the things that popped out into the news is one amazing number 1 wide receiver. I don't put a lot of stock in a number 1 wide receiver. I never have in the past until I started having a number 1 wide receiver, probably because I just never had one as a Buffalo Bills fan for a while. But Michael Thomas, he got benched because he got into a fight in the locker room.
Dude, he's been tweeting a little bit too.
He's been getting a little sassy pants. We'll call him. We'll call him a little sassy pants.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and say, Vontez Burfict knocked him out or something, and now he's nuts. But he's been a little childish, let's say, on the Twitter machine.
Just a wee bit. And for those of you that don't pay too much attention to the cap, besides crazy people like Rob and myself, the Saints basically can't play football next year. Like they honestly need to take a year off. The Saints and the Eagles are the team in cap hell. I think it's somewhere around the range of like 70 million over the cap.
78 mil.
I was rounding down. My apologies. 78 mil. So like they just need to dump contracts and they need to dump players. And Breeze is a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. They're still winning games. They're doing a good job, but he's a shadow of what he used to be. And during this trade deadline where you're going to need draft capital in the worst way possible, because draft picks you can pay. You can pay the draft picks. They're cheap. You got to start shedding. You got to start cutting people off. You're not going to get rid of Kamara because he's your future. He's the wide receiver. He's your number one wide receiver and your number one running back. So yep. I could see Michael Thomas being on the move. Where could I see him going? That's a mystery to me. That would be interesting for me to see. One place that I could definitely see him going is New England, because New England is building up that nucleus again and restarting and kind of doing what they do every couple of years, where they revamp their wide receiving core and then bring in a number one wide receiver and then just keep it rolling. So I could definitely see him going to New England. But other than that, it's interesting. And it's interesting.
But, again, like we talked about before this, these teams like the Saints, the Eagles are, again, we're going off of right now. It came out earlier this week that they're projecting the salary cap next year to be $172 million, which is a decent amount lower than what it is this year.
Right.
Right now, basically, the two teams that are in the most trouble are the Saints and the Eagles. The reason why these teams are in such bad shape is because of the way they structure their contracts. It's not so much the money they're giving out. It's the structure of how they're doing it. So, some teams, they'll just get the money out up front. Get that guaranteed money out of the way so you can just cut them and be done. That's the smart way.
That's the best way to do it.
When you backload these contracts, like Drew Brees has literally gotten a 1-year extension every single year with a completely restructured deal just to save them. At some point, I don't even know how to go about it, because they can't even trade these guys, because they're still due that. They're still the ones that have to pay that money, because that was supposed to be paid 3 years ago. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't know how they can do it, because if you go and you look at the dead cap and everything they have to spend, traded or cut, because the contracts include that now, there's not much they can do. There really isn't. Your owner is going to have to literally drop close to $100 million in signing bonuses just to get you off the books.
Yep. It's just bad. It was bad structure, and it worked because players wanted those deals, because it gave them security in the long run. The players, basically, they treated these contracts like a banking account, like a savings account, where they knew money that was going to come in. They didn't have to worry about getting a huge signing bonus and buying a Maserati right off the top. But it's just so bad. Like, I just looked at Michael Thomas. Like, his contract is just bad. Like, as they get older, you shouldn't pay them more unless they're in their prime. And he's no spring chicken. It just doesn't make sense to me, the way in which they set it up. But it's them and the Eagles, and they were in win now mode. So let's get as many good players as we possibly can. And the way in which you get good players is guarantee them big deals. Big deals, especially as they're getting older. And that's what the Eagles are falling into. Another team that I talked about, which could be trading away anybody and everybody that they possibly can, and could be looking at taking huge cap hits because they have to trade away players just to try to figure it out with dead cap hits. Like, it's insane. I don't get it. I never will get it. But then again, they've won Super Bowls. So
one to look, actually two to look at. The one I'm going to praise the most, though, is Seattle. You look at the two that stand out, or I like to look at and see where they stand with cap space, but also kind of go based upon where does the team stand right now. So like, okay, I'm looking, I see, okay, the Jaguars have the most cap space next year at 82 million. Great. The Jaguars have a lot of work to do. Jets, 80 million. Don't even get me started. Like stuff like that.
Mm.
Patriots, 67 million, 68 million. Again, they're going to wind up paying Cam, so that's different. But how about the Ravens? $53 million they'll have next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they have to pay Lamar at some point.
Yep.
But the one that I love, Seattle, 32 million. Their quarterback is paid. That's awesome. That's fantastic. You got Metcalf still on a second year of his rookie deal. You got time with him. I understand, they haven't done the best job of providing for Wilson, some will say, especially on the offensive line. They still, Adams isn't fully finished yet. I get that, but that's pretty cool. 32 mil to be in the spot they're in. That's pretty awesome considering.
Yeah. I mean, they're a good one, and another one is the Chargers.
Yes.
I mean, the Chargers are in a great spot for where they are. I mean, if Herbert figured it, he looks like a good quarterback. They got the coach. I mean, they got the coach that they need. I think Lynn's a great coach. They're sitting at around 33 million. So, I mean, they can go out and get the pieces they need, and they don't need much. I definitely do think they need a wide receiver. But you can find those here and there. I mean, they still haven't played what's his name because I haven't seen him in 2 years. They have one of the best safeties in the league who just hasn't played because he's been injured.
Yeah, they're another team that they're always hurt, man. They have such bad luck.
Yeah,
they have really bad luck. They always have, even with Rivers and LT back in the day. Like they've always had bad luck with injuries.
Yeah,
they really have. There's some interesting ones out there. Another one that people are talking about too is Julio.
I love me some Julio.
Yeah, me too.
I would take him in whatever age he is, just because he can catch the frickin' ball.
Yeah.
I know it's a crazy concept that a wide receiver should be able to catch, but it's rare to find in the NFL these days. It's absolutely right. But speaking of rare to find, we're getting close to it, but we're not there yet. I need to talk over my Survivor pick of the week. Who's it going to be?
Why is this a weekly thing now?
Because I haven't lost. So I'm a superstitious mother effer where we need to figure out who am I going to pick and why. And especially because this week is a dumpster fire. Like, you would think by looking at the board going, oh, Lions over Jags. That's an easy one. No. The Lions are not playing good football. Not picking that. Oh, the Panthers over the Bears. No. Do I go Giants?
No.
See?
Have you picked the Cardinals yet?
Yeah, I just picked them last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't listen when you talk about this usually.
You never listen to me. This is why we're breaking up.
Do
I go the Vikings? The Vikings look like dog poo-poo.
They're home too. Yeah, probably. The Giants scare me, man. They're bad.
They're bad. Like, here's the thing. I took the Bucks already, so I can't take them. I took the Rams. I can't take them. I took Cardinals. I took them. I don't think I've taken the Ravens. I could take the Ravens. You know what? I might take the Ravens. But then the Ravens against the Eagles, the Eagles always scare me because they're such a bad team this year. But they have the potential to be really good because they just have good players and they have a fun wide receiving core.
When healthy.
When healthy. But what's his name? Is it Hightower from Boise State? Dude,
Boise, dude.
I love him.
Yeah.
I love him, but I don't know.
Just go Baltimore.
All right, I'm gonna go Baltimore. But all right, that wraps up this week's episode. Hopefully next week I'll be in a little bit better of a mood. Probably not, as Rob said. I'm a Debbie Downer. But be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _WarRoom33.
If you're watching on YouTube, even if you don't want to listen to Andy, you can mute him out. If you want to just listen to me, feel free. Like, subscribe, follow, hit the notifications bell so you'll get a notification every time we come on. Any questions, thoughts, comments below? Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome, guys. Well, we'll catch you guys next week.
Later.